Hello again, and welcome back to the show all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. The first episode of 2021, which will be an amazing year. I'm sure of it. And I'm sure of it because we have some fantastic insight into finance, some fantastic insight into what the year should be for business owners, individuals, and parents. I know we've got a lot of those out there. So I'm thrilled to be joined on the program by an expert, Jonathan DeYoe. Jonathan has appeared in the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and is a contributor for Business Insider and Huffington Post, and is the author of the best-selling book, Mindful Money. Jonathan DeYoe, welcome to Get Down to Business.
Thanks, Shalom. Glad to be here.
It's great to have you. So let's start with you to let our listeners know who they are hearing from. Jonathan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
You know, after telling the story a few times, you sort of find new angles to talk about it. And it's really not about me. And that's the reality of it. It's, you know, I was raised with very little. So I developed a deep interest in money and finance and trying to invest and trying to get ahead and trying to build wealth. 5 years in the industry, financial services industry, I learned a lot of lessons. And ultimately what I figured out, and for the next 20 years, what I've been practicing the last 20 years, is the right way to do it is deeply countercultural. Like, we are battling every day against the fatigue of advertising, the constant flow of what we should be doing, what our parents tell us, what our peers tell us, what we see on social media. And it's an enormous battle. And the countercultural aspect is, it is so simple to think about. You remember your board games as a kid. There's flow in, there's flow out. It's very simple. What do you do with the excess? And if you figure out those couple things, have a vision for your life, and just go forward. Don't worry about so much the outcomes. Worry about the process. Put in the work. Do the stuff you have to do. You can get to that outcome. I know you speak to small business owners. They struggle with this every single day. It's such an important countercultural story. How we get to wealth through business, through just living lives with goals and hopes and dreams. What are those steps? It's really not as complex as we're made to believe it is by the storytellers on Wall Street.
I agree with you completely. And Jonathan, you were born and raised in Rapid City, South Dakota, but now live in Berkeley Hills, California, and two wonderful kids, as well as a pretty wonderful cat, as I understand, and of course your wonderful wife, Kate. And Mindful Money is really that brand. And Mindful Money, we've just started that conversation. So you have done a lot of analysis of 2020 and the most recent presidential election. So let's start there, because I know that's on all of our listeners' minds. What does that election, which was probably the most contentious in our history, what does that mean for our financial plans and portfolios?
So before we go into what this particular election means for our portfolios, I want to just put a little question in there around, this is the most contentious one in our history. The one before this was the most contentious one in our history up to that point. And the one before that was the most contentious one in our history up to that point. So what we see here is we see a couple things going on. And this is my graduate work was in Tibetan phenomenology. Now, we're not going to get into defining what that means, but basically what it is, it's how we experience the world. And we have, 5 senses in our brain, and that's the full palette of our experience, right? And so when everything that's being pushed to us tells us that it's really contentious, it's really bad, if it goes one way, it's the end of the world. If it goes the other way, it's the savior of the world. Then we start to kind of mold our beliefs around that belief. And that's just not the case. Like, I don't subscribe to the concept that this one event is so dire and drastic that it will either make or break the world. Yes, changes will come out of it, but we will adjust to those changes. We will figure out a path and we'll take better steps forward. This is what we do all the time, whether it's pandemic, election, Great Recession, Great Depression, presidential assassination, whether it's .com boom or .com bust, whether it's oil boom or oil bust, whether it's Bitcoin up or Bitcoin down. We always adjust and we figure out a way around. And that's what, the pricing mechanism, it's just all of us trying to figure out what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? And that's going to continue happening. That conversation is never going to end. And as long as that conversation continues, we're going to keep moving forward. We're going to progress. We're going to take, what's the saying? 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. We're going to keep doing that. That's always the way it's going to be.
100%. And so you don't seem concerned that it was the most contentious. I mean, it's concerning in the big picture, but you're saying that our markets and our entire culture and environment is sort of has been trained and poised with that in mind. So we almost have built some muscle memory.
Yeah. We react. The thing about planning, the thing about envisioning a life and taking action, it's non-reactive. This is what I want out of my life. I'm going to take the steps I need to have happen. I need to make so that I can have what I want to have happen in my life. I am, proactive. Mm-hmm. But everything we're trained, all the media response is all reactive. And there's really, at that point, there's really nothing I can do about it. Will it change things? Yes. But I will then manage my next steps.
Well, I'm chatting with Jonathan DeYoe, and we are going to squeeze in a very quick break here and get down to business and continue our conversation about mindful money when we come back on the show all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship in just a moment. Welcome back to our conversation with Jonathan DeYoe, the author of the best-selling book, Mindful Money. And Jonathan passionately educates business, individuals, and parents to manage the anxiety of the unknown and focus on financial factors that they can control. So, Jonathan, where did that name, that brand, Mindful Money, which I know is a part of both your book as well as your amazing team in Berkeley?
Where did the name come from?
Yes.
So, I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier. My undergrad work started in finance. I've had an interest in money my whole life, but about my second year of undergrad, I got really bored of finance and I started studying philosophy and comparative religion. I went on to grad work at the Graduate Theological Union in Berkeley. That's what brought me to California from the Midwest. And my topic area was going to be comparative religion, and I was on my way to become a Lutheran minister. And I went, the school said, we don't have the money for your scholarship. So you've got to find another source of money so you can go to school here. So I went door to door to this 9 theological seminaries. And one of them, the Buddhist one, said, sure, we'll go ahead and give you that scholarship money. So I ended up studying comparative religion and with a tilt towards Buddhist studies. And that Buddhist studies is kind of what underlies all of the modern secular mindfulness concept. There's a lot of prayer. There's a lot of other religious stuff that kind of bubbles up into this concept that's mindfulness. But, I was training with monks and with real deep, Buddhist practitioners seeking enlightenment, trying to figure out how my mind worked, recognizing that, hey, it's really how my mind works that causes me all the pleasure and the pain in the world. How can I use this, or how can I think about this? And I was not finished when my first wife said, okay, Jonathan, it's my turn to go to school. You need to find a job. So I dropped out of a Buddhist studies program, and there's no really employment for that. So I started interviewing on Wall Street, and said, one of them hired me and said, you can fog a mirror, see if you can sell a stock. And so I spent the first 5 years selling stocks. And then I figured out, what? That stuff I was studying, that pleasure and pain reactivity, that Tibetan phenomenology, that actually applies. Mm-hmm. We're learning the wrong lessons and we're employing the wrong practices. If we have actual targeted outcomes that we're trying to accomplish, there's a better way to do it with education and planning.
Jonathan, I have to ask, we're set up, and I know you talk about this a lot, we're set up for financial anxiety from the time that we are children, listening to our family money stories. As adults, we begin reading newspapers, watching TV, log into websites, listening to pundits who pretty much add to those financial anxieties. Is that a good thing to be educated and to pay that close attention, or is that actually hurting us?
It's a great question. It's okay to pay attention. The question is, what are you paying attention to? And then I'll just go to this. In every high school across the land, if there is a discussion of investing, it's not a discussion of investing. It's a discussion of stock picking. It's the idea that you're gonna market time and select the good investment and buy now and sell now and buy now and sell now, and somehow that's going to be a lifelong return source. The reality is outcomes are created by getting a basic understanding of, deferred gratification, compound interest, and when you do these financial literacy tests, the average person fails them miserably. They don't understand what inflation does. They don't understand what compound interest does to combat inflation. They don't understand the very basics. They may go, yeah, I know the stock Disney. I know the stock Apple. Yeah, that makes sense. But they don't know about personal finance. So we're saying, hey, it's good to pay attention. It's good to get educated. It's good to have a plan. But that's more important than trying to figure out how to time the market or select the best investments. We're focused on the wrong things culturally.
Absolutely. And I want to pivot into the analysis of 2021 and sort of looking at how things have shifted into this post-COVID world. First of all, how did you handle COVID? Did you embrace it, or was it the most challenging year of all times? And how has that sort of created your plans for 2021?
So I don't think anyone embraced it. Like I think I did very well during it. I have a business that allows all of my 8 team members, if they'd like, to work from home. We did very well. So I'm not complaining, except about the financial aspects of things, about the economic aspects of things. I'm very grateful. I'm very lucky in that aspect. I have not enjoyed sitting at home. I have not enjoyed missing my friends. We had one weekend about a month ago.
Your wife is going to be tuning into this, right?
Yeah. And that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. She feels the same way.
Okay.
I love my wife. We hang out together. That's great. But I miss hugging my clients and hugging my friends and seeing people and having dinner and laughing and joking. I see your smile and that's great, but it's different than sitting across the table from somebody they're smiling and laughing. Right. And I miss that a lot. So I've survived. I've done really well, but, I've been lucky. Like I recognize there's still 12 million people out of work, and that's devastating.
Yeah, absolutely. So 2021, what's your New Year's resolution?
You know what? I'm really about, I've set my goals a long time ago, and I'm just going to keep working on my plan. I'm going to keep doing the plan. Nothing really changes much. Maybe I'll try to drink a little bit less, maybe I'll try to do that. That'll be my New Year's resolution.
Amen, brother. I appreciate that very, very much. We all know people that have set those resolutions that are not achievable, and looks like you have handled 2020 like a champ. So thank you so much for joining us on the air. How can people learn more about Mindful Money and get a hold of your amazing team?
The best way is actually to go to mindful.money. That is not mindfulmoney.com. It's actually mindful.money. People don't realize that there's URLs that way. And that you can find all about our 401k services, our individual services, our digital services, and all of our educational programs.
Fantastic. Jonathan DeYoe, thank you so much for educating us as we kicked off 2021. We're going to squeeze in a quick break and more advice on pivoting into 2021 when we come back in just a moment. We'll be right back.